of the people who traveled, who is the worst player on OD?
I mean, who hasn't won a Shonen Jump or a YCS?
I didn't say that, but
Really wish all on the count of three we all said Paul, but you guys.
yeah.
Hey everybody, this is nope. I'm doing that again. That was stupid.
Yeah, let's just call it. Let's call it.
Way to sound natural.
Yeah, right. All right, hold up.
I think the flow of conversation, the more natural it sounds, the better this whole thing will come out, Chris. Like,
It's gonna be.
Yeah.
just try to structure it.
Okay, look. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, this is Kristopher Perovic, and I'm here today to host a roundtable discussion with some of my Overdose teammates about the GOAT Format World Championship that recently took place on October 24th. This is our first conversation together since the event happened. And, well, let's just start off by introducing everybody. I'm here with Dale Bellido. Hi, Dale.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Lazaro Bellido. Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And Anthony Alvarado.
Hey guys, good to be here.
Okay. So, guys, now that Worlds has come and gone and the dust has settled a bit, I don't know about you guys, but I'm left reflecting on the choices we made going into the event and where both we and the format overall sort of go from here. I also feel like since 47 players entered the event, there are at least 40 or so players out there who have some regrets about how things turned out, and maybe we can speak to some of that. Okay. Also, I'm sure there are some legacy and online players out there who sat out of this event that might specifically be interested in our take on things. I know several people like that. So let's just kick things off here for the benefit of our listeners. Let's just tell everyone what we played for this event and also how we did. So Dale, you can kick things off.
Yeah, I played Thunder Dragon Chaos Control with, I guess with more flips. And yeah, I finished second, which was pretty good. I mean, I've only kind of done one spot better.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little more into it after, but
sure.
Yeah, I guess Lazaro's next.
Yeah, Lazaro, what'd you play? And how'd you do?
Yes, so I also played Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, but I played the Mimic package with one level 3 Mimic. It's similar to like what Chris played, I believe, in a couple of tournaments ago for... Sorry, what tournament was that, Chris? That you played your Mimic?
Yeah, it was FLC 13.
Yeah, so it was similar to the deck that Chris played in the FLC. And I finished top 4. So I think I did pretty well, considering.
Yeah, I'd say you did exceptionally well. What about you, Anthony? What did you play and how'd you do?
I also played a Thunder Dragon Chaos Control variant. It was similar to the Humble Robot deck. I played the exact same copy of the deck as Chris. So, play testing involved and just making decisions based on the outcomes of those play testing.
How'd you do?
Not so well, not too hot. I actually played LeBounty round 1, and I went 0-2 overall. So not a good tournament for me. I wish we could redo it, but we'll talk more in depth about that in minutes to come.
Sure, yeah, and I'm in the same boat as you, where there were certain things I wish I could redo. I also played Thunder Dragon Chaos Control. It makes all of us playing Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, and I went 2-2, and that's probably like the worst Go Format tournament experience for me like ever. So yeah, we had 2 of us that did really well in top 4, and 2 of us that did not do so well, and we can talk more about that. But that's the bird's eye view of like how we did in the tournament. But let's just back up a bit and talk about going into the tournament. Some other things about that. Obviously, also I want to pay some respects to our other teammates that did play in the event. They're not in this conversation right now, but let's just say that Paul and Rymus, obviously they're on our team. We love them very much. But they weren't, and I think this is fair to say, I think all of us would agree with this. I think they would agree with this. They didn't really take the event as seriously as we did. They just decided kind of to show up on the day of with a random deck. And both of them also went 2-2, which is actually kind of surprising because neither of them had played for several years. But they weren't really, this is just to say that they weren't really involved in our playtesting discussion, just for the benefit of our listeners. I'm just saying that out loud. Outside of them, though, let's talk about going into the event, starting with I guess expectations, and I think Dale, maybe you can start things off for us here. Like, what do you think the expectations of us, or any one of us specifically, were, and how did you react to that?
Obviously, I wanted one of us to win. I thought we would do well as a collective, and if the game was fair, if the format was fair, I would like to say one of us would have won. Our lead up to, I think our metagame call and what we predicted was actually right, and that's a little evident in, I guess, when you look at our side decks.
Right.
So yeah,
we had very all of us, in fact, had very limited side decks geared towards what our predicted metagame was, which was in fact like what the actual metagame was.
Yeah, I'll jump in there and I'll just say we had estimated 50 competitors and we knew about 45 to 50 would show up, and we actually predicted out what percentage of every deck, and the alternate win conditions were just something we didn't think too much to use our sides for. So I think that was a good call by us. There were a few obviously out there, but
our plans to dodge them didn't really go to plan, because I think I started off like round 2 played against Empty Jar, and I know Lazaro played against MMF's Empty Jar. Did any of you, Anthony or Dale, did you guys play more of that?
No, I didn't.
I didn't.
Any alternate win.
Gotcha. Okay. What about like, not just our expectations, but the expectations of other people? Like for me, I mean, I don't want to lead off this.
I think I know where you're going. I know you don't want to lead.
Yeah.
But I feel like the expectation of people going into the tournament were that they weren't sure how well or how poor they would do. Like, I don't think anybody felt as prepared for this tournament as they would like to think they were. I know leading into the tournament, we second guessed ourselves with a lot of card choices, deck choices, and it sucks when you spend so much time playtesting and falling back onto old habits as to, okay, I prefer this deck for X number of reasons, and no one felt great going into the tournament. And I don't know about the rest of you guys. I know I didn't feel great going into the tournament, and when you polled people around, most of the polls showed that people weren't comfortable going into the tournament with
for sure.
playing.
Yeah. And I think that's the case because Go Control is not the same as what it was, 10 plus years ago? I mean, people have been playing online for quite a while now, and it really changed it, because before it was mostly just Go Control. No one was really throwing in all that, the Chaos package with the Thunder Dragons. Those were like very far in between one another when you played back then. So, but now people realized the power that it has. But with that power comes like the inconsistency with Thunder Dragon Turbo or Chaos Turbo, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where people felt the uncertainty. So they weren't sure, hey, if I run into that deck, if he just draws way better than me, there's nothing I could do. But at the same time, at least my thought was I don't want to play that, just because there are times where your hands brick fairly often, and it's a pretty straightforward game plan, right? So I think that's where most of the expectations fall for a lot of people in terms of how they expect it to do in the tournament.
Yeah. I think speaking to that a little bit, where you say like it was different like from 10, 15 years ago, actually like the big shift was like maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Where if I would be way more, although I finished second, I'll feel way more confident 5 months ago, where everyone was running Go Control and I knew it was Chaos Mirrors. It's the biggest thing that changed everything was Chaos Turbo. Like it's very difficult to, like you were saying, it's very difficult to prepare for Chaos Turbo and play against it, right? It's almost coin flip-ish.
So
yeah, I think I'll add one final thought to that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I jumped in playtesting maybe in July is when I first created a Dueling Book account, and when I saw I was playing Go Control and Chaos Turbo was across the table for me, it just felt like, wow, that the speed of the deck, how fast it moves, and it felt like you couldn't do anything to halt its speed, but it was such a linear deck. And I think playing against linear decks where they're just coming at you so fast and you can't respond quick enough and they just level you, you felt helpless. But at the same time, you knew if you're just playing a linear deck against an opponent with a linear deck, now it's a matter of who flips the coin and draws better or faster, who gets through their deck. I was looking at deck counts and I'd be like, wow, he's 20 cards deep into his deck. I'm only on card 28. Yeah, he's going to win this game because he's just moving that much faster along. So that was one of the expectations of, okay, I don't want to run Chaos Turbo knowing how fast it could be and how high the ceiling could be if I draw the right cards, but it's too linear. And I think that's why all of us ended up with Thunder Dragon Chaos Control. So the expectation was we were afraid of Chaos Turbo, but we didn't want to necessarily play the deck because of the bricks that Lazaro mentioned.
Right. I think we can say, okay, so Chaos Turbo has a high ceiling, and it's very powerful, and it's very difficult to do anything about when they start going off, right? Like if they run multiple, like 3 Fates, and they hit Trinity, and they have Night Assailant to combo with that just to gain some advantage, or with Thunder Dragon, et cetera, or even like a 4th Trinity card in the form of card destruction to abuse all this stuff. So yeah, they have a high ceiling, but they are linear. Another deck with like a lot of non-interactivity like that can brick is something like, I'm not trying to directly compare these, but something like Empty Jar, right? Like you look at a deck like Empty Jar, and when you're sitting against it, you're just like, man, I really hope this goes badly for you because there's not much else I can do. But it doesn't necessarily lend itself to you wanting to play Empty Jar, just because when you do, you see how many times that it doesn't work out. So it's just, I guess we're talking up Chaos Turbo. It did alter the format. I think we all recognize that. But at the same time, it wasn't like we were inclined to play it just because it can be inconsistent. So that kind of answers like the question of, I think we all think that we made the right call by not playing Chaos Turbo, but do we all think that we made the right call about running the versions of Thunder Dragon Chaos Control that we did run? Let's start with Lazaro. How do you feel about that?
Well, for me, I didn't really test as much as I wanted to in terms of playing on DN or Dueling Book now, right? Mm-hmm. But when I did play Chris, or when I did look at Chris's deck, or the deck that I eventually ended up playing, I just felt like it was the most versatile, and it allowed me to make plays, like actually like take different routes on how I want to win. I'm not just trying to turbo to like BLS or a Chaos Sorcerer. Like it just controls it. The way it controls, I felt like that was the deck for me. I don't think I would have changed anything in the main deck specifically, but the only thing I would change would be like the side. But no doubt I would play it again over.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think your decision, Webb, like you noticed how Chaos Turbo was very linear, but when you played your Chaos Control build that you ended up with, you realized that there are multiple decision webs to dictate different outcomes of the game. So you can play to your strengths in certain scenarios, whereas you're basically playing the draws in the Chaos Turbo decks.
Exactly. And like Metamorphosis is so versatile. Like it's not just bringing out Thousand Eyes Restrict. Like it won me so many games, just that card alone. And that's like the versatility of the deck, right? It gives you that one card gives you so many different options.
Right.
And I'll speak to this. There's certain scenarios where you're playing Chaos Turbo and you're maybe flipping a Dekoichi and you're deciding, do I Nobleman now or attack a face down monster? Whereas with the control deck, you may have a flip Mimic and you're like, do I Metamorphosis now? Do I Nobleman now? Do I just Tsukiyomi down and just attack the face down? Like there's so many more options that go into your thoughts versus I'm just going to flip the Koichi Nobleman and attack directly. It feels like when you play the Chaos Control variant, you have all those outcomes and you can hold on to resources a lot longer versus Turbo, you're just going off the cuff and just going, this is what I'm going to do. I have one decision to make. Let's do it.
So just to piggyback on that and to give the people who are listening an insight a little bit into what our thought processes were headed into this event. Something that I think I brought to the table when we were talking about, what should we be using for this event was data and saying, hey guys, I have been looking at this for a few months now, and this is what I think the win rates are of these particular deck types against the field that we expect. And something I think that to what you guys are talking about in terms of like the number of plays that are available to you, if a deck type offers you 10 different plays compared to another deck type that only offers you 2 different plays, then your skill level is going to be more relevant when using that first deck that it offers you 10 plays per turn or something like that. And whereas I think conventional wisdom agrees with what is actually factually accurate, that in the aggregate, Chaos Turbo wins against that field more than Thunder Dragon Chaos Control. It has a higher win rate, but your skill level can drive up the Thunder Dragon Chaos Control win rate in ways that it can't necessarily impact the Chaos Turbo win rate. So I think that's like something that we all recognize, that hey, the average player would maybe not be as successful with Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, but us thinking of ourselves as good players, we can drive that win rate up in ways that we can't do for Chaos Turbo. And in that case, like if we're thinking about playing Chaos Turbo, like what's the benefit of us playing it versus a random person playing it? Like we don't carve out ourselves any advantage. So that's just to piggyback on the point that you're making, that more decision trees allow us in ways that don't necessarily allow other players the ability to win more.
And a big piece of that is back when we played Go Control and you had Go Control mirror matches. If you think about what Chris was just saying, if you have 10 decision trees to be made, it allowed for more opportunities for the less skilled player to make the accurate decision, right? So if you're playing a Chaos Turbo against a less skilled player, and not to say all Chaos Turbo players are less skilled, it's just they have one of 2 decisions to make and the outcomes don't vary as much.
Right.
Whereas when we played mirror matches with Go Control against Go Control, or in this case Thunder Dragon Chaos Control against Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, you're looking at the skilled player will win more so because they're making more accurate decisions. Just like you went on a chessboard, it's about how many accurate decisions are you making when you're moving pieces. Your decisions on what cards to play, when to play them, when to not play them, all matter, and those webs start creating more webs that determine this outcome.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think I was the only one when we started playtesting that was trying to bring Turbo to the table. Mm-hmm. And it's only because I have been playing. So I haven't been playing the FLCs and the GFCs. I've just been playing like money matches and wars. And I was probably 95% of the time using, well, maybe 90% of the time using Chaos Turbo. And the other was using Go Control. Mm-hmm. And I tried to bring that argument to the table with you guys, and it's not that it got shut down. It's just the points were made where if you, like you were saying that if we believe we are the better player and we can use that to our advantage, Chaos Turbo limits us, right? So I guess I fell in line and it worked out. I don't think playing Chaos Turbo, I would have finished higher. I probably would have finished lower. I think I'm believe that too.
Yeah, it's either you won the tournament, otherwise you finish lower. And I think a critical part of when you came into the conversation with trying to use Chaos Turbo is we were talking about that win rate, how the more skilled Thunder Dragon Chaos Control player is, the higher opportunity they have to win against that Chaos Turbo player. So you're heading into a tournament with the cream of the crop in this world's GOAT tournament, right? Any Thunder Dragon Chaos Control player, we're assuming if the scale is from 1 to 10, is going to be above that average, or at least at average if they decide to play Thunder Dragon Chaos Control. So that win rate against Turbo should be increasing. So your field of Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, where in a standard FLC or GFC you're walking into and you'd be slapping around Thunder Dragon Chaos Control players, you may not be able to easily do that with linear choices against players who can make decisions and be resilient against you, and get to the mid and late game.
As a turbo player, you mean?
Yes, as the turbo player against Thunder Dragon Chaos Control. So we sort of shut Dale down, and said, hey, look, these are just observations we made based on win rate analysis and data.
Right.
And it's crazy because my win rate with Chaos Turbo was very high compared to any other, obviously because I probably played it the most. But like coming off close to like, I think above a 90% win rate playing that deck and last minute switching just because we've discussed and it made sense to do that.
So
make that switch.
And I'll keep Dale honest. I don't know about you, Chris, but like when you say you have a 90% win rate, that's just an arbitrary number you're throwing out there. I don't know if you're calculating I won 90 out of 100 turbo matches, but
yeah, I could pull it up somewhere. I think that data was sent to me.
Well, it does. I mean, sure. I mean, if it's 90, it's 80. I don't know what it is. But it doesn't. That's not really. I don't want to also talk about necessarily the difference between Thunder Dragon Chaos Control and Chaos Turbo for this whole conversation.
Sure.
Yep. Let's just say, and for the sake of our viewer, we'll have like a graphic up in this point. I just want to make 2 points about this. One is at the end of the day, I've gone through the bracket and I looked at what everyone played and I calculated the win rate of each deck type. At the end of the day, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but Chaos Turbo, counting Reclaire, which, by the way, whenever you count winners in any kind of data after a tournament, it always skews the data towards whatever the winner did. But that's just the nature of tournaments, and what you should be doing is looking at aggregates for like multiple tournaments. But that being said, that caveat, for this tournament specifically, Chaos Turbo won 58% of the time. They won 28 times, they lost 20 times. And that's just, if you assume every player was of an equal skill level, then that's just some representation of how Chaos Turbo did against this field. Thunder Dragon Chaos Control won 24 times and lost 24 times. So they had a 50% win rate. So Chaos Turbo won 8% more. And, with that in mind, I want to ask you guys one more time, do you guys think we made the right call? I mean, I know that Dale and Lazaro, you guys got top 4. It's hard to imagine. And Lazaro, you only got top 4 because you had to play against Dale in the last round and one of you had to advance, right? So like, there's not much more room for you guys to have done better other than just winning a tournament. That said, the winner of the tournament did play Chaos Turbo. He played, and he also played 2 Chaos Sorcerers specifically to like cut back on that inconsistency issue that we were talking about before. And that's so you guys did well. I didn't do well. I went 2-2. Anthony went 0-2. I guess so this question isn't really for Dale and Lazaro. This question's for me and Anthony. Anthony, you can give some insight to the viewer, like why you felt Thunder Dragon Chaos Control was the right pick, but specifically in as short as a way you can. If you could go back, knowing what you know now, knowing that Chaos Turbo won, knowing that Chaos Turbo wound up leaving the event with a higher win rate, and knowing that Thunder Dragon Chaos Control didn't work out for you, would you go back and do Thunder Dragon Chaos Control differently? Would you play a Chaos Turbo, or would you do something else?
So I'd go back and do something else, and I'd speak only to the data based on what data I had on my win rates. Mm-hmm. So for in my case, and this is a lesson to be learned. You should always go with the deck type or deck play style that best suits you.
Right.
So I walked into this tournament and I had 3 months of play testing probably under my belt, and I saw Chris's win rate and I said, wow, his win rate's incredible with this Humble Robot deck. And, I shifted towards playing the Humble Robot deck. And I think it was the FLC immediately after Chris, where I entered under Mario and I played a Chaos aggro deck with Thunder Dragon. I had 3 Magician of Faith and 6 spells, but the fact was,
it was brilliant.
The fact was, it was an amazing choice. But like, it fit my playstyle, and it was an aggressive deck that was a great meta call. And I would say the meta call wasn't much different than what we expected at Worlds. It was a high Chaos Turbo, some Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, that's probably half the field. So it would have served the same metagame call. And had I gone back and went with my bread and butter and said, I'm going to use this Chaos aggro deck, I feel like I would have performed a lot better. I played Labounty, who had a Chaos Turbo type deck with a couple of warrior choices, like a DD Warrior Lady in there and a Kaiku. And I felt like the Blade Knights, my own Kaikus, my trap lineup, my aggressive lineup, and I should have went with it. And to be candid, I made the huge mistake of second guessing myself the very morning of the event. How often have we gone to a YCS or a Shonen Jump and
almost every
last minute just scratch off your deck list and create a new one? It's like it's just a terrible habit, and those events never work out well. It should always just be what you were prepared for and what you were working with. So if I could go back, I would run something similar to the Mario deck that I ran at FLC 14. Right. I went undefeated with that deck. I performed really well. The game seemed pretty easy. I ran 3 Magician of Faith for a couple of reasons, and the next tournament I enter won't be anytime soon. So I ran 3 Magician of Faith with 6 spells, but it was a matter of if I opened up a Trinity card and I got a Faith down, if it resolved, great. If they Nobleman, great. They're not coming back now because I'm playing aggro, putting them on a clock, and they don't have a Magician of Faith to try to, Trinity me and, rotate Magicians of Faith to get me out of the game. I was just literally just putting them on a clock and beating them down turn after turn, and they were done.
Gotcha.
So if I could go back and redo the tournament, I would play a Chaos aggro deck. And one idea I floated around is not running Thunder Dragon at all and just running a strict Chaos Turbo. Or Chaos aggro, excuse me.
Gotcha. I mean, to
that fit play styles.
To that point that you just brought up about running what you're comfortable with, I mean, Dale and Lazaro, you guys chime in if this applies to you too. I was just thinking while Anthony was talking that in our history, Anthony and I, we probably talk to each other more than we talk to anyone else in particular. And like, I'm going back to, Costa Mesa, for example, like when Lazaro got first and I got second. I read the other day a message that somebody was sending me about that event, and they pointed out to me, I totally forgot about this, that Anthony ran DDT at that event. But that wasn't Anthony's deck. That wasn't his comfort zone. He just decided that at the last minute to run DDT because I ran DDT and I was confident in DDT. And there was also a point after Columbus. I went undefeated in Columbus in 2006, and I got top 8, and that's the one that Iman won. But there was a dry spell after that where I was just running whatever Anthony said was the deck that worked best for him. And then the first event that I said for myself that I wasn't going to run what my teammates wanted me to run was Houston, when I remade DDT, and then I topped that event. And it's just, I guess my point is that between me and Anthony, and this is why I'm asking if it's true for you guys, whenever me and Anthony run the other person's preferred deck, it seems like we never do well. And it's only ever when we really embrace what we are comfortable with that we seem to do well. Is that true for you guys?
For a long time, not a long time, for the short perceived time that I was better than Lazaro, I ran my own deck, and I would get tops, and it wasn't until Lazaro turned into this legendary deck builder, like you two, and I just noticed I was building my decks. Even if you look at our Costa Mesa decks, they're a little different. The only times I probably ever outperformed them making my own deck choice was probably when I won back in 2005. But the majority of my tops ended up coming from the zombie deck that he built, the monarch deck that he built, the chaos, or the Taladad deck, the gladiator beast deck that the Overdose team eventually refined. There was one event in SJC Toronto where I think 6 Overdose guys topped, and we were all playing the exact same deck, or close enough, maybe one card off.
Yeah, maybe crush card.
Yeah, it might have been it. Yeah, that might have been it because we only had so many. So, but yeah, it's probably we conversed about the deck enough where we made it our deck type. Like the only time I ever changed decks and did better than I thought I would have was thanks to Chris with talking me off DDT, and then I beat him in Montreal.
Okay. I didn't expect you to sneak that one in there.
You know what? I played a deck that was like your worst matchup. And you were beating the regular Monarch decks, but my Monarch deck was with the Apprentice Magicians, and DDT just had a hard time dealing with face downs, right? So
I don't know if I'd say that. I just think you got lucky.
You're the one that told me that.
Well, I don't remember. It's whatever. I feel like
you're like I can't deal with an Apprentice Magician because it brings out an old Vindictive, and how am I going to do that in battle phase? When your kill card was Vortex on the.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying things that make sense, but.
Hey, you said it. I remember it.
You know what? I was actually totally fine with my history of like not winning that event, but suddenly I became very uncomfortable with it. I'm just like now really upset. Like, God damn it.
Hey, thank you. I shouldn't have probably played that deck, which is good.
Apprentice Magician. Oh my God. Anyway, so
yeah, but it goes back to like even Paul during his podcast recently. I mean, he mentioned how I would play watered down versions because I'd be risk averse to running, something so dedicated because I try to fit back to my play style where it's cookie cutter. So at Shonen Jump Los Angeles, where he's playing 3 Bazu, 3 Return, I ran maybe 1 or 2 Bazus with the Warrior, DD Warrior, 2 DD Warriors, and a DD Assailant with 2 returns. So it's like the difference became that 3rd return. It was like play to your play style. Every time I played more aggressive, whether it was Karakuri's, whether it was Gladiator Beast, like I did better. But when I tried to play this control, and it could go back to more decision webs. The more decision webs I played with, the less I did. Because, I'll give it to Chris. He's a lot more skilled than I am with the GOAT format. Like he and I can play GOAT mirrors all day, and he would come out victorious more often than I would, right? With the exception of my luck. Chris knows how lucky I am. Like the night before, Chris
plays.
Yeah. We have some replays even against me against Dale. But the night before, Chris will hate me to bring this up, but
you're breaking up, Anthony.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry, I can
he's
talk
play
about
testing. Yeah, he's play testing his control deck, and he's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna play my Chaos Aggro with no Thunder Dragon, and I'm gonna wreck shit, so it's okay. And I 6-1 Chris right before bed, and he's like convinced he's gonna like 2-0 me and go to bed real good. He's probably up to 3 a.m, double guessing everything. He was just second guessing.
You know what? Yeah, you ruined it for me. I was totally prepared to make changes
Chris
to my deck.
Chris is not the world champion because I totally ruined his confidence.
That's actually exactly like I was prepared to make these changes to my deck to optimize it, and then I just lost. And then it was just like, well, I'm just
not lost. Wrecked.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I felt like I had no choice but to at that point because the tournament's I need to go to sleep and the tournament's coming up. I'm just gonna go with the deck that I know, and I didn't embrace the changes I was even thinking about, which were very similar to what Lazaro wound up earning.
Yeah, actually it was.
So that's one of the reasons why I don't play test before tournaments, man.
Oh,
I never do it. I sit on my deck, just fishbowl it, figure out what I want to play, figure out the tech choices, and I run with it. And then when the tournament starts, those first few rounds is where I get the feel out of the deck. That's typically what happens for me.
It's funny because I was telling Chris mostly that we never play tested.
It's true, he 100%.
He didn't believe it. We almost never play tested.
We just tell each other, hey, this is pretty good. Most of the time when we play is at a local or like the tournament itself.
And I think to speak to that is, Ant, remember when you stayed over at the Toronto Jump and I didn't have a deck and I just copied your Karakuri deck?
Yeah, I do remember that. And
I talked with it, but the whole time I was just trying to pick your brain on certain stuff. And it's just like theory, it just sticks. And
wait, what event was that?
That was I don't know, but
this is one of the events we stood on the floor. Yeah, I remember. I think it was top 16. Top 16 with Karakuri.
I thought there was only like GBs.
No, I called him on Thursday when he was coming in, and I asked him what he was playing. He's like, I'll just show you in person.
I think it was like
And then-
I think it was like with Gen X Neutron.
Yeah,
With
that
Gen
was
X
the
Neutron,
trick.
I had to go buy them. Yeah, I had to go buy them.
Yeah, it was amazing. But like that's what Chris was talking about. You know, in his podcast, he mentioned how, you know, our testing circle went a little bit deeper than most other test circles, and you know, Dale just confessed like the Canadians didn't play test, right? So like when we'd ask them the theory, like, or hey, how's your play testing going? They would talk all theory, and then Chris would realize they're not play testing. Like they're not really doing anything other than saying, I like one Nadoria because we run 2 tomatoes. Sounds good. Yeah, let's do it. But in reality, like we were getting actual playtesting results and data. And like when Dale joined our testing group for this World Championship, and we're sharing with him data on spreadsheets and replays of our games to show him, look, this is what happens when you see this and this. He's just like, man, this is a little bit more than I bit off for. I didn't think to expect all this.
No,
Lazaro
absolutely.
was lucky.
Absolutely.
Lazaro joined like I think the Thursday or Friday night before. So
When you guys showed that to me, I was like, wait, what is this? It's just
Yeah.
numbers and words on this paper, on this
yeah,
Excel.
Lazaro's
man.
an accountant, right? You're an accountant, right, Lazaro?
Yeah, it just looked like work.
So I'm also I have an accounting degree. I don't work in accounting anymore, but like when I see the spreadsheet and the datas and pivots and all the summaries, and like all of a sudden it goes, man, I'm doing my 9 to 5 all over again. And you know, that's the kind of stuff we dealt with for years, you know, dealing with Chris. And you know, I really do. I'm thankful for having someone like Chris on the team and being able to pull data like that together, because it does make a difference when it comes to decision making and, you know, what goes on with us.
Well, I mean,
our group.
I mean, it usually winds up affecting at least one of us in some way. But you know, I'll put in a bunch of time. I'll put in a bunch of games. I'll like think about rulings like, hey, if they Jama trio me, I can turn the attack. I mean, I can turn the token to attack mode, right? Like this is like a fact that I came up in one of my games, and I was like, hey guys, don't forget this. But like, it never comes up in a tournament. And like the one time there's like an opportunity.
The last will.
Which will last will? Like the
double last will.
Oh yeah, that's a different thing. But yeah, you gotta.
Yeah, but in general.
Okay, yeah, but specifically, like I'm thinking like this never winds up coming up for me in a tournament, but it winds like I watched Lazaro play and he's playing against Empty Jar, and I'm just like, I really wish he would use Scapegoat right now because it shuts off Shallow Grave, and it's not like a thing that like I can give him that benefit of without having that testing behind him. But like, I wish it came up more. I wish those obscure things came up more in tournaments. They just never seem to. And the data is just more about, you know, what's a starting point for a conversation, like, or like what kind of card or cards have what kind of impacts and what kind of matchups to, you know, guide conversations, so that we're not just like speculating wildly like at the last minute, which we wind up doing anyway. So it's whatever.
Right, a lot of theorio. Right, well, we used to call that, right, theorio. We used to be like, we're going to speculate how each card would work, and there's nothing to go behind it other than it should work.
Pretty
for it.
much.
It should work for it.
Yeah.
And then you just say, oh, this is how someone else told me it worked, and you just go with it.
And that's what the forums are full of. Like, I don't want to call out any particular person on the forum, but like there are so many people on the forum that speak to theory, and it all sounds and it looks great on paper, but until you actually put it in live action against linear Chaos Turbo or Chaos Control and against different levels of players, like there's a different mindset going into a tournament with high level players versus your normal FLC or GFC, or a local versus a regional versus an SJC. Like Chris called out, when we traveled further north in the country to go to these shonen jumps, we knew to prepare for, you know, the Canadian metagame. When we traveled south towards Florida, we knew that we weren't going to see Mystic Tomato and Nidorias, right? Like, it just wasn't a thing. Like, Florida played totally different. And the same thing with Texas when you deal with those players in California. So it was a critical thing for us to know when it came to our decisions.
How familiar are you guys with insectors?
Sorry?
How familiar are you with insectors?
Oh yeah, pretty familiar.
Lazaro,
Oh yeah, no, I play that a bunch.
Anthony?
I think because
Yeah, I know it.
Okay, so I'm just going to chime in here and just say, like, hey, you know, there is value to playtesting, and I'm just going to share a story on behalf of Paul. So there was this one time Paul was coming out of retirement a little bit.
I also lost one time when I went to that same tournament because I was playing against insectors, and someone told me that if you play against Insectos, you just side in Macrocosmos because it shuts them down. And but I didn't have Macrocosmos in my side deck. What I did have was Dimensional. So assuming they work the same, I sided in all these Dimensional Visions. I opened it game 3. Like, yes, this guy has no chance. 2 Dimensional Visions in my hand. And he destroyed me. That I was pretty upset about.
That was so funny.
And it's just to say that there is value to playtesting and stumbling across rulings that aren't
That's
necessarily.
ruling, yeah. That's more ruling than actual playtesting.
Well, if you played a game before, you would have realized it. Anyway, I'm just saying that kind of thing, there's value to playtesting, and it's not to say I don't put in 1,000 games. It's not like I don't play like significantly more than anybody else. My point is, the thing I think that separates me from most people, I'm not saying it makes me better or anything like that. I'm just saying I track it. Like I don't just play for playing's sake. I play for testing's sake, which I think is different. And I've tried to keep it. The tracking it is what puts it to use. Otherwise, it's just kind of like I have to remember, whatever lessons were learned about something I played 100 matches ago. And
Right.
Yeah,
Especially if you win, right?
Yeah,
that's the thing, right? If you go on a huge winning streak and then all of a sudden you start losing, like you make 1 or 2 changes and you never get back to that old list or have data to go back and refer to the old list. You make changes on the fly based on what just happened.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that never works well for you to actually come up with a good decision or a good deck choice. You're just basically flip-flopping cards or side deck cards because, you know what, I'm tired of seeing these empty jars, so I just switched 12 cards in my side deck, and that doesn't really work in the tournament.
Right. So I actually have no clue how long we've been talking, but just for the sake of not making the entire conversation, because it feels like it's been a little bit, let's not talk about so much like going into the event, what we did or how we felt about it. I think like that's kind of like ground we've covered now. Let's talk about like a little bit, just briefly anyway, if you don't want to go too much into it. I'd like to hear about a specific play or match or loss or 2 even that kind of summarizes each of your world's experiences and maybe even sort of clearly explains a regret you may have about the event. Dale, do you want to touch on that? Anything stand out?
Yeah. I think I got a few on each point. So last minute, we were talking before the event, and I was like, I have a 14th card side deck spot, and I just like threw out in the chat like, what should I side? And Anthony's like, enemy controller, because I was talking about enemy controller earlier. So I'm like, yeah, I think this is solid too. I do have the space. I want to put it in, and the theory was kind of right, but it backfires huge. And I think Chris is on stream when I'm not thinking, and my opponent goes duo, and I have a Sangan on the field, and I totally forget about the chain link.
I remember this
resolution. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess
like, no,
this is gonna be the big misplay where I get knocked out of that tournament. And then it's against Chaos Turbo, against IMZ1 in game 3, and
it was tight. It wasn't even like, just for the sake of the listener, you can go back and watch the stream. It was not like you were winning by 5 cards or something. It was like low resource game.
Tight. Yeah, super low resource, and I waste an enemy controller, and a Sangan ends up not being a Sinister. I think I take like a Faith or something else.
Right.
And I end up coming back that game. Chris is like, I remember listening to the stream after, like, Dale's going to win this game by like 100 points. I'm behind. He has like a Sorcerer and a Spy. He Gracefuls with 2 Thunder Dragons into all monsters, and he doesn't press for game when I had a set face down. For turn, I get my Sinister back and have Chaos Sorcerer just to summon Torrential and attack him for game when I was so far behind at that point. So that's one of like the, you know what, if I get one for the tournament, it was there. The other one was against Weird Champ in, he used the Bazu return deck, Bazu Skull Lair return deck, where
And for
it's like super back and forth.
For the benefit of the listener, I know what you're talking about. And I think some of these guys know what you're talking about. But this is the deck that WGM made that has King Tiger Wanghu in it also, and 3 returns and 1 Skull Layer.
Yeah.
So this is like, it's scary to play against. All right, sorry, go on.
Yeah. So. And also part of it is like people are telling me I'm against a 14-year-old kid. And I'm like, I shouldn't lose to this 14-year-old kid. That means he wasn't even alive when this format was playing. But there's one point in game 1 where I grind them all the way down, and I'm put in a position where, all right, I could flip this deco and start to press because I'm behind, but I choose not to flip it because I'm like at 200 life points, and if he rips anything, if he rips a Bazoo or whatever, I end up dying. So I don't flip it per turn, pass, and he does rip a Bazoo next turn, and I just roll into, like, it's obvious for us to not flip, but I can see a position where people will flip, like,
and not care about their life points.
Yeah, exactly. I could have flipped into drawing any monster to kill him, but the math on it was like I may have had like 14 cards left in deck. 3 cards I could have drawn were defensive, so I don't die to a Bazoo like Book of Moon or like a Regeki Break. 3 other were kill cards to kill him, so I could draw a monster for game. But it just, the math made sense not to flip it, and I pulled out that way. And game 3, he summons Tribe to, I know he gets return off Merchant. He's at like 32 life points. Or maybe 29 life points. So he rips Tribe, I have a Kaiko on the field, and he pryos right away. And when he pryos, I just sub 16 right away when he's still in main phase 1, because I have Ring. And then he goes, so I add the 16 back. And then he goes, attack.
This is, by the way, a real life trick that I can't believe worked online. Like this.
Yeah. I don't say we've done that in tournament.
Yeah.
So like, it did work.
Okay, go on.
And I'm like, this could be my only chance here because I'm a little behind. Ring is kind of just the fail safe. Like I hopefully I could tie in one of those scenarios, but I might be able to get away with it to go for game, and it works out. That's it. And he does it, he falls into it, and yeah, it was awesome. And then the last thing is the review of the finals against Ricklar. Even though he opened, like, in game 3, I had the best anti-turbo hand, where it's like breaker, knock, pot, and like something else, and I get card destruction. But there were points in that game where I made mistakes. I don't know if it's fatigue or not reading the plays right. Probably both, where I probably still could have came up and won that game, and I make a huge misplay to lose the tournament at the end. But yeah, that's 1 on each point.
Yeah,
I think the 14-year-old kid that you were playing, by the way, was also like 9 hours ahead of us or something crazy.
Both of
like
them,
that,
yeah. So I had.
Yeah, I know Verklar was like 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, at the beginning of the tournament is to their benefits. Like, they have gotten up, they've started their day, they had lunch, whatever, and, they're ready to go at like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, their time. But for us, we're like, oh yeah, we're on 4 hours of sleep. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. This is awful. And but towards the end of the tournament, you wind up with Verklar playing at like 4 or 5 in the morning for his time. So it's kind of a catch-22. It depends. If you don't expect to do well, it's better. It was better for the Europeans in that case. But well, that's interesting. I mean, Dale, it sounds like your takeaway from the tournament was you got lucky in some really key moments, and then you made some good decisions in some really tight moments that paid for, and then some bad decisions that you may have made in some tight moments, and then in the end it came down really just to you, and you wish that you had made a different choice going into in that final match, and to pull it out to second match to maybe win the tournament in that case. So I guess
exactly. Yeah.
I'm not trying to dig into you. I'm just trying to.
No. You're right, because I'm gonna do. So I've done those videos before where I break down my gameplay, and I'm gonna do a little bit different and break down my losses. And it's gonna show people that there was like it may have seemed grim from where I was, by seeing like what he had, what I had, but really
You had options.
even without cards exposed, if I sat and thought about it, like I could have won that game.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like you played Yu-Gi-Oh that weekend.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, just to be clear, again, if like 47 people played, like 46 of us didn't win, right? So like everyone's gonna have something they wish they did differently, or that they wish broke differently for them. So I mean that's you, and I mean that's really tough, probably the toughest out of all of us, because you got second, so it's the closest to first. You know, you can feel it within your grasp. You know, Anthony, I don't think you had an experience where you felt like winning was within your grasp. Do you have an experience that you want to talk about
Not necessarily. I mean, I played Labounty. I think I misplayed a torrential in one of the games, so probably cost me one of the 2 or 3 games, however many we played. But I will say against Labounty, and he made a comment at the end of our match. He was like, "Wow, I can't believe how much harder you made that than it should have been." And it went to show that I hadn't played in a while. I didn't draw any Trinity cards against him. I think he did draw against me. He may have returned even in one of the games, but he saw that the effort that was put in decision trees. He was like, "Wow, you made the right decision here and there." And I felt like with the deck I played, I made good decisions, accurate decisions. Again, minus the one torrential play, but like Dale said, it's those one or 2 choices that can wreck a whole tournament. I'm confident that if all 47 players woke up this Saturday and played the exact same tournament, they could not change their decks and they had the same pairings, that we'd have a different outcome at the end of the tournament. Like, this tournament would never play the same way twice, and it's because of those decisions that break with an extra 5 to 10 seconds of thought. Dale may have broke a different way. Lazaro may have broken a different way. Chris' decision would have broken a different way. And I remember watching back your game against Lazaro, and you may want to touch on this, but that Regeki break with the Mystic Tomato getting tossed against the Asura Priest when he went to go attack us, the Magician of Faith. Like, I don't know if you want to touch on that, but like, I questioned the decision. I think the commentators questioned the decision, and it just goes to show that how different would this tournament have been if you perhaps didn't flip that Regeki break in game 1 of match 1.
I think I still would have won. Like,
no. Yeah, Chris's confidence was shot. So between getting paired with Lazaro and then losing 6-1 the night before. I mean,
hold up. First of all, I did not get scared getting paired against Lazaro. The only thing that frustrated me about getting paired against Lazaro is I was guaranteed to get the feature match, and it's like, all right, great, 45 people have locked deck lists that no one can know about, but me and Lazaro, me and my teammate. Yeah, that's going to be the 2 deck lists that everyone gets to know about going forward. That was the frustrating thing about getting paired against Lazaro. But I don't know if I watched back that match with Lazaro, and there was like maybe, I think like 2 or 3 points where I could have done something different. But fundamentally, I don't think that it actually changes the match. I think his changes to the deck made his a better deck. I thought he played well enough. And that there was not much that I think I could have done. In fact, like, just to point out, like, he 2-0'd me. Like, even if I stole one of those games away, I just don't think that third one was going to go different. I also, I think I opened up 2 Thunder Dragons game 1 or something like that, or game 2.
I think game 1 was where we were searching for that Thunder Dragon.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And you never got it right.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I felt like, and this isn't to talk so much about this particular match, but one thing that you did differently than me, Lazaro, was that you ran a Dekoichi. You actually ran, I think, 1 Tomato, 1 Dekoichi, and 1 Mimic level 3. Is that right? Or did you run 2 Tomato?
Yeah. I added like more versatility to it.
Yeah, I don't like I didn't at the time like 1 Mystic Tomato over the 2 Mystic Tomato, but there's something to be said about how ineffective Mystic Tomato is, particularly in that matchup where you don't want to put it face up, and if you put it face down and you don't flip it the next turn, your opponent's not going to attack it. And so it's like, okay, what do I do in this spot? Whereas I'm stuck with cards like Dark Mimic level 3 and Tomato, like in that role where if I don't flip it right away, it reveals what they are and you're not going to touch it. You, on the other hand, have an Asura Priest and a Dekoichi, and you could just flip an attack, or you can just summon an attack, and you don't have to worry about anything getting banished by Chaos Sorcerer and making you go minus. So it's just to say that's not the match actually I would care to mention. But before I get into that, I just want to ask Lazaro the same question to you that posed to everybody else. Is there any specific play or match or anything that like clearly explains a regret of yours or how you feel summarizes the tournament overall for you?
I mean, in terms of my losses, I feel like there was not much that I can do. When I played the Chaos Warrior deck, naturally their deck is built to win game one, right? So he won game one fairly quickly. I don't even think I played too many turns, probably like 5 tops. So I don't think there was any play there in particular that like sticks out. And usually like I tend to remember losses because that's where you learn the most.
Same,
so
yeah.
Something from there, like nothing really stuck out about that match because game one was just a blowout. And game two, my whole side deck was basically decked out to beat Chaos Aggro, right? Or Chaos Warrior, because I had like 3 Decrees, Messenger of Pieces. Because whenever I did find time to play on Dueling Network, I seem to always run into that. So for some reason, I just felt like maybe I'll make that my side. So I thought game 2 would go well, but I didn't open a Decree, and unfortunately, he opened, I think, Pot, Graceful, Dust Shoot, Mind Crush, and that just sealed the game. So in terms of that loss, there was really nothing that I can do. Mm-hmm. In terms of the second loss that I took against Reclaire, game 1, there was a bunch of breakpoints where I had this Graceful and no good ditches, no good discards, but I had Heavy Storm, BLS, I believe like Metamorphosis, and he was at, not exactly sure, but he was within range where if I drew a Chaos Sorcerer, I would win. Mm-hmm. So typically, I would wait it out and wait for like a Thunder Dragon or a Sinister. So my Graceful is like it's more live, right?
Right.
But in this case, I'm against Chaos Turbo, and I'm feeling like I gotta take this opportunity to find that sorcerer and win before he can get anything up. So then I just start digging. I Graceful, Faith, Graceful again, and then I just never drew it. And then at that point, I felt like I was losing my foothold of the game because I wasn't playing for like the advantage style anymore. I was playing for let me draw this card so I can kill him.
Right, and it just never came.
And it never came, and then it took so long that since it never came, I was actually discarding cards in my end phase, I think, or that might have been another match. But I was probably discarding like good cards, which would have kept me in the game longer. But once it never came, I kind of got like disheartened, and then he just dropped his Heavy Storm and his Chaos. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's the matchup, right? Turbo. I was trying to out turbo, and that's not a good idea. Yeah. So that's probably one thing I probably would have changed. I probably should have tried to control the game a little more with the Faiths, and instead of taking Gracefuls, look for like Book of Moods or anything to like help me stop him as opposed to me going all out for it. And then unfortunately in that match, I kind of got some computer issues, and there was a couple of like disconnects, and I was a little frustrated going into the next couple of matches because it took me about like 30 minutes just to even get back onto DN. I kept getting like booted. So game 2, I think game 2 I won. I think we went to game 3 where I lost. And in game 3, I think he just brick walled my Azura Priest with Gravekeeper Spies, and I just had nothing on it. So in terms of that match, he just blew me out there. There was no way I would do anything different.
Gotcha. Just circling back, just because you touched on it, it's something I actually did want to ask earlier. Just quickly, yes or no, did anyone feel like they wished they ran more, or at least one copy of Kaiku, Asura, or Gravekeeper Spy in their main deck? Dale, yes or no?
No. Yeah.
Sorry, Dale, you cut up. Say it again.
Sorry, I had the Azura. I didn't value Kaiku too much in the main deck at the time, and I still don't. And Gravekeeper Spy, that's why I wanted Turbo. I remember at the beginning, I wanted to play a deck that could main Spy and Kaikus, but no, Azura was the other card I really wanted, and it fit well.
Gotcha. Anthony?
Yeah, I would run 2 copies of each in my main if I could do it all over again. But again, I play more of a Chaos Aggro build.
You mean like 2 Spy, 2 Kaiku, 2 Asura?
No.
Like
I meant Asura and Kaiku only.
No, okay, I got you. So
the spies were something I did side deck 3 copies in my aggro build, but we can go into deep conversation about that at a different time.
Sure. Okay. Anything else, Lazaro, about your tournament experience?
I think I guess another thing for me is like I feel like I made a lot of like technical misplays in terms of like forgetting Sinister, and I think that's just more to do with me not having played in a while and me not having played on Dueling Book Dueling Book, right? Yeah. So I feel like if I did play test a little more, I maybe would have cleaned a couple of those things up, but I don't think that would have really changed the outcome of the tournament for me at least.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you played well with your rust and lack of awareness. I mean, that's something that the first 2-3 weeks I came back, I was just getting blown off by everyone. Everyone's just wiping me up, and I was like, damn, this game is hard.
That might have helped me though.
Yeah.
I never ran into those moments, so I didn't really second guess myself.
Yeah.
Just to say it and then move on from it, so I said before, like I went 2-2. I lost to Lazaro. There's few things I would have maybe done different. Nothing I really think would have changed that match. My other loss came to Masses, and that was on stream, so a lot of people saw that. And I'd say that like this summarized really my tournament experience. It may not have been against Lazaro, but I did open up 2 Thunder Dragons twice in 4 matches, which is sort of unusual. I think some players in the course of this tournament, they opened up like pot duo or just pot both games or something like that. And it's like, okay, you get the sense that things are going right for you today. That didn't happen to me, like any match. There was no match where I felt like anything was going right for me, like against Lazaro, for example, game 1. Like I could have drawn Thunder Dragon in the first 20 cards. It's like, oh my God, that actually happened to me again. So it's either I draw 2 or I didn't draw any. And then, but against Masses, I went to game 3. He was playing Go Control, and I'd say this is what summarized my tournament experience. So there was a point in the game where I thought I was doing well. I sided in Nudorias because he had Blade Knight, and like I kept setting monsters, and he was having trouble answering them, and I had a great hand. I had like BLS, Chaos Sorcerer, which were both live. I had Thunder Dragon to protect it from duo. I had Nudoria, which was going to be my other dark. I had Goats. I had Meta. I think the only card I was really waiting on was Storm or something like that. Like I was ready to just lay it all out. But then he just kind of randomly draw or set a monster and then activated Metamorphosis, and it was not Sinister, it was Fusilier, and he summoned King Dragoon on me, and I couldn't answer it. I could have summoned BLS and tried to attack, but he had a back row, so I was like waiting on Storm. And that card was something that, you know, Lazaro, me and you played against each other. You liked King Dragoon. You were trying to make it work with both Fusilier and Stein.
I thought it was a pretty strong card.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And I didn't, because I kept, like, I won those matches when
you kept wrecking them.
Yeah, right. So I was like, I didn't think that.
Yeah, you made me not play it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, here it is. I'm staring at the barrel of a gun where he's playing this card, and I can't answer it. And eventually the game gets to a point. So like I'm not giving up. Like this is Worlds, like, and it looks dire for me, but I just need a heavy storm. But he also, by the way, ran 3 trap dust shoots, or sided into 3 trap dust shoots, which was really annoying but even by the time that you draw a storm to kind of answer the situation, he's prepared to send your BLS back. But neither here nor there. So the point is, so I get to this one point in the game where like everyone who's watching is kind of like, yeah, this game is kind of over. And I am looking at 2 back rows. He's got 2 back rows behind him with a Dragoon on the board. And he just dust shoot a couple turns ago, but I think like I drew pot into something good, and it was conceivable that like I had amassed multiple cards to put together a win condition over the Dragoon. And so like I drew for my turn, and I just say like thinking, and I pause, and I'm just thinking about my play, because it's really not a good spot. I don't have an answer to the Dragoon, but I have a Chaos Sorcerer and I have a Metamorphosis. So I'm like, well, like after some period, I'm thinking, okay, my thinking looks like weakness. I'm actually going to say, hold on, I think I got it. And then I say math, hold on. And then he's like, no, and he's starting to feel bad. So I let him sit on that for a bit, and I'm like, yeah, all right, I got it. And then so I say, or I summon Chaos Sorcerer, and I banish his Magician of Faith. Sorry, he had Magician of Faith flipped face up and Dragoon. So I banish the Magician of Faith. I activate Metamorphosis, which is very typical. Like you think you're going into Senshi, right? Because he's got 2 back rows. I'm going to go into Senshi. And then I chain MST on the card that I read as Scapegoat to force him to use Scapegoat. And he So he activated. I forced him to activate Scapegoat. He chained Scapegoat, and then I went into a Jama King. So I got 3,000 defense on my side of the field. He's got a Dragoon and 4 goats, and this was my way to lock up the game. My hope was that like he couldn't, even if he went Thousand Eyes and sucked up my King Dragoon, that there wasn't going to be a good way that he could tribute it off. And I guess what I'm saying is I played that part of the match in a way where I don't think anybody else would have done that. I don't think anybody else would have tried to sell it as, oh, look, I'm going to win. I don't think anybody would have like tried to put out a Ojama King out there to try to stall for a heavy storm. But it's something I did, and it kept me in the game for a long time. Like even if he had Book of Moon, he would need like Book of Moon and Nobleman, or Meta and Ring, or some combination of things to try to win that game. And I'm not saying I was in a great spot, but that particular play I felt was a really great play that nobody else or very few people would have done. And it didn't. And the point is to say that I did feel like I played well. However, Nothing. It didn't matter, because by the time I amassed a win condition, when I had 10 cards on my left in my deck, I finally drew a BLS, and I had Heavy Storm, and I had BLS, and I held Ring. I nenever set Ring, and I was ready to put together a win condition. Activate Heavy Storm. He used Magic Jammer, and so it was like, okay, that's how my tournament's gonna go. And then even after that, I mean, I say I lost to Magic Jammer because I couldn't get through 4 other back row at that point anyway. But he also had the 3rd trap dust shoot at that point, so I could he sent back my BLS, and there was just nothing I could do. And that's really what my tournament experience felt like. It felt like it didn't matter how well I played. It was just I was going to be stopped by something, and there was nothing I was going to be able to do. And it's really frustrating because going into the tournament, this ties back to the thing we started off the conversation with about expectations. Like everybody had these expectations that I was going to do really well. Scully tells me after the event, he's like, everyone kind of ran what I thought they'd run, but I thought you were going to bring the spice, and I didn't. And so I just brought this deck that I played with before, and I feel like everybody kind of was.
You let me down, Chris.
That's what. Yeah, you let all 3 of us down.
It's not just you guys. I feel like it let everybody down. I felt like everybody was rooting for me, but
mostly us. You let us down the most.
Yeah, you let us down.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Anyway,
lucky my friends from the north, put it down for us.
Yeah,
I mean, we had to because Chris.
Oh my God. So yeah, I mean, honestly, that's just I've said this before. I'll say it here. This is why I love my team. I mean, you guys complete me, right? Like you guys, if you guys put it this way, if I can't do it myself, I can always count on one of you guys or usually more than one of you guys to do well in my stead, and that's true for all of us. And it's
exactly
it's happened every time. And
I'll add, I think if Dale and Lazaro did not last minute collaborate, they may have gone in with Turbo, and who knows what the outcomes would have been. But again, you don't do much better than second other than first, and top 4 other than going into the top 2, right? So I think when some of us failed and some of us did better, a lot of people had hate for OD and love for OD, but the hate came from, they top all the time. But it wasn't like the same person over and over again. It was just, you kept seeing OD's name because it was, if I fell, Chris climbed. If Chris fell, I climbed. And, it just, the persons who stood atop the top 8 ladders or top 4s were just always someone different, but it was always somebody who represented and did well, and it was all part of the collaboration.
Yeah, I think that goes back to when we played competitively. I don't think there's a time where we've missed at least placing one person in top 8 or top cut.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm pretty sure we've hit every, if not multiple people.
Pretty close to, I would say, yeah. And it's like when one of us tops, we all top, right? Like we always feel that way, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
He's my team. He's doing it for us, right? Like we got it. We work together.
It's the next
accomplish it together. Right?
It's the next best thing to doing it yourself. But like it without that, like, I mean, I don't think any of us would even care so much. We might be like sort of feeling defeated if we just lost and we didn't have somebody else to root for. But that also, I think, helps all of us, move on from our losses and focus on something that's bigger than ourselves, and that's what makes us feel like we're part of a team more so than I think just a random group of people that happen to know each other and want each other to do well.
Yeah, you don't celebrate wins as hard when you're alone, right? You celebrate wins when you got a group of people to celebrate those wins for you. And I'm talking about in life or in the game. Yeah. Like anything you succeed in, when you have a group of people around you, you just feel completely,
Yeah, it magnifies it that much more, right?
Yeah, it's euphoric, Yeah. And I think going into the tournament, one of the things I mentioned to Chris directly was, hey, look, if I don't win, I want you to win. And if, if you and I get paired up, I'm giving you the win. I just don't feel like, A, I think you're the more skilled player, but B, I feel like you can carry this team further. And the same thing happened with Lazaro and Dale. It's like, now that we're collaborating, it's like, okay, there's a lot more people involved. You have to start making these type of decisions. And I know Dale mentioned, in his podcast that Matt Peddle used to just, hey, take the win. Don't worry about it. You got it. And it was that kind of sense of, we want the team to succeed first before self. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think that another point, by the way, Lazaro, is not only do we often top, but compared to other people and compared to other teams, I don't know of any. I mean, I consider myself well versed in the history of the game before 2009. I don't know of any team that's ever, hit it quite like us, where if we're not at 100% topping rate, we have to be like 96 or something like that. Like, I don't know of any other team like that. Do any of you, Dale? I mean, you were involved a little later.
Teams are much bigger now, and it's top 32, right? And nationals is like top 64. So
okay. Yeah, well,
they're probably still not doing it at that rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were playing, it was top 8 for a long time.
Top 8, and then top 16 came, and we had a breath of fresh air there, and then
we started with 4 people. We didn't have to worry about tiebreakers.
It was
or with that Toronto Gladiator Beast format, right? Like, we had like 8 of us in there or something.
Yeah, so the people staying at my house, there was top 16, and in my house there were like 9 people in the top 16 staying in my house that weekend.
It's gross.
Yeah, it was insane.
Okay.
Like, people were playing each other in the house, and I'm like, oh, we play tomorrow, type of thing.
Yeah, I think we were trying to get people to play now. Like, hey, dude, you want to play now tomorrow? Trying to take an early W. We can sleep in if we play now.
So let me ask you guys, what about? Okay, so I think we've covered the tournament in good detail, both in the lead up to it. We've summarized our experiences. I guess the only questions that are left are like, where do we go from here? Or at least for now, like, what do you guys plan on doing? Are you guys gonna go back to the dueling book rated ladder and grind it out to feel better about yourselves? Or are you gonna take a break or what? Lazaro, what are you doing?
I'll probably take a break and then see what's happening with the next few tournaments. Maybe join in on one of them. I think I only played one tournament leading up to the GOAT World Championship, and I think that was like really early.
That's how you got your invite. Yeah,
the 120. Yeah, because at the time, GOAT format, I was terrible. I didn't top nothing. So I had to do it that way. I had to do the hard way. But
wait, when did you get your invite? Which event?
So
I think it was 128 man, right?
Yeah, he won like the biggest online GOAT format tournament at the time. There's a 128 man tournament, and he ended up winning that one, and that's how he got his invite for it.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Was this the one that
I got my legacy invite, but also I won a FLC, but I got a legacy invite too. So I totally forgot you didn't have a legacy invite, Lazaro. That you didn't get to like 2006 or 7.
I didn't even know what GOAT format was, man. That was terrible.
Was that 128 man? Was that a free entry luxury?
Yeah, it was a free roll.
Yeah, and there was a cash prize?
Yeah.
It was.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I sponsored that.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
hey,
that worked out.
I sponsored this tournament, and I got my money back, so that works out.
Yeah, I sponsored this one too. I keep giving and giving. I gotta collect.
You didn't give it to me this time.
No, but it's funny. It's funny the way things worked out, because that tournament wasn't gonna like. I literally set the rules for that. I set the cap at 128, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't pay attention to what happened with it. I wanted to play, but I actually got busy before the event, so I never actually got to play. But I never paid attention to who won, so it blows my mind that it was you, and that's how you qualified. And then
did you actually just find out right now?
Yeah, actually, and then so I paid for my own loss at Worlds. That's
yeah. Full circle.
Yeah, teaches you to be a good person, right, Chris?
Or selfish. If I just never would have done that, I could have done better.
Sucker. I'm telling you, Chris is out this season to take all FLC and GFC invites away from everyone. He's gonna just take all the wins.
What about you, Dale? You do you plan on keep playing, or are you gonna take a break, or what?
I stopped playing ladder after season 1 because that grind is just insane, and I'll probably stop playing till the new year. I'll go back to playing money matches. The only problem playing these stupid money matches and money tournaments, it's like the same 15 people. Like, how many times do I want to play La Bounty, Carl, Geist, and like a lot of them, Ivan. Like, I don't want to enter them because like they're actually my friends.
Those are my boys.
Yeah, like we're cool. I don't even know why we played money matches. We played Team Wars against them, but they Team Warred the other Canadians, and like I always play with the Canadians. So Loop is my main test partner, and these guys will money match anyone, and they just call for money matches, and then they're like, "Oh, you want to join this money match? It's for $100." I'm like, "Oh yeah, for sure." Then I joined the group. They added me to the group. It's Carl and Labani. I'm like, oh, well, I'm playing against my friends. So, but yeah, I'll probably sit on like maybe playing the luxury tournaments. I think I have my invite for next year's World Championship, so I'm not gonna play anything too serious and probably just run like GOAT control for like the next year till you talk me out of GOAT control like the week before, and then I come second.
Okay, well, I mean, if that's the plan, that's the plan. And what about you? You playing a lot now?
I probably won't be playing a lot until, I'll probably play like one tournament a quarter. And if I get bored enough, I'll join a bunch under alternates and only brag on the ones I do well in. Right. So we'll join all 15 FLCs, but we'll only talk about the one we won.
Yeah. What about
that kind of role?
What about so just for the sake of our listeners, we're recording this on November 3rd. Worlds was about a
2 weeks ago almost.
Yeah, a week and a half ago.
October 24th.
Yeah.
How much Yu-Gi-Oh have you guys been playing in the past week and a half?
0.
Yeah.
None. I was all Yu-Gi-Oh'd out after that one.
Same.
Yeah.
Dale?
Yeah,
I think it's a healthy
I haven't
break,
logged
though.
in.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me ask you this, and I think this will just segue into like wrapping things up. What do you guys think happens to GOAT format now? Like, where does it go from here? We've talked about Chaos Turbo and the impact that has not only on our own mentalities going into an event, but how that structurally affects the metagame and like what your card choices are, and that it pushes GOAT control out of the metagame, for example. And I guess there's some element of that, the deck choices, but there's also elements about related to like the tournament structures. Like, we've been doing double elimination for FLCs and GFCs. And I guess that's my question. Maybe it doesn't have to be like, hey, I'm going to hold you to this. You better be 100% right in your prediction of where this goes. I guess my question is more like, where do you hope things go for GOAT format going forward?
Right.
Yeah. I hope that. So the way I perceive this is, I don't think the format is solved, and I think it's a rotating format. And it took the introduction or the reintroduction of Chaos Turbo to shift the metagame, but I'm hopeful that there is something that reshifts everything back, like a big giant circle. I could be wrong. GO format has been around for 15 years now,
right?
But mind you, it only really had this major shift 5 months ago.
Right, when Swisky got second place and he was main decking Tomatoes, Spies, and Cyberjar. Yeah, he's playing. Yeah, the way the deck was playing is I have more sets than you have Noblemans. Yeah, and then they bait one set, and then you're just like, oh dang, what do I do? And then also obviously Regeki Break. That was another major addition. Yeah, and for where GOAT format as a competitive scene goes, I hope it grows. I think a lot of legacy players, it kind of caught their eye. There was a video of, like on GoFormat.com, there's a few videos of leading up to, and one of the names I noticed, like, I don't know if you remember Comic Odyssey Juan Cardenas. Oh yeah, he's been messaging me a lot lately. He commented on one of the videos. Right there. Yeah, he commented on one of the videos. He's like, oh, I missed this. Yeah. And I know Miguel Garcia was going to play it. Yep. So
I think Juan was one of my first friends I made with Comic Odyssey. Like Juan was mad OG. Like I stayed at his house. I went with Fernando and all those guys, and Chris. I think it was Chris, Juan, and Fernando were the first 3 Comic Odyssey guys I got real close with. Then like obviously Dwayne and them, but I think like Wilson, T, and Ryan were all late. I mean, I think it's because they were more up my. I grew up in the ghetto, so Juan was an OG. He had my sense of style. So I got in good with the hood seal members.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about these legacy players that feel like they missed out. Not only legacy, but even online players. So like I'm thinking like Brian Long, for example. Like I know he wanted to play, but he just like lost track of time. He didn't realize it was that weekend. I know Calvin. He's not a legacy player, but he's an online player. I know he wanted to be in. So I think like these people that we're talking about haven't necessarily integrated themselves into the GOATformat.com community, but this World Championship was like sort of an eye-opening experience that they may not rush into doing this tomorrow, but I think going forward as you have more tournaments, or as GoFormat.com hosts more tournaments, or FormatLibrary.com hosts more tournaments, they're going to be more inclined to spend one weekend and just giving it a go and seeing how it happens. I think the next Worlds is going to be even bigger for that. Yeah. Anyone else have anything to say about what they hope about Go Format going forward?
Yeah, I'll add. I hope Dale's right where it's cyclical, and but I don't foresee us going back to the GOAT deck the way it ever was. Right, we'll never get back to double surprise or 3 metas with goats and just merchant and stuff like that. Like it'll always be like a 2.0 or a 3.0 as the format adjusts and evolves. But I mean, I'd hope to see the community continue to grow. I hope that legacy players come back, new players join, and I'd like to see more current format players, like these the top 10 players just get a special invite or something. Like whoever's your top 10 ranked players in advance, just if you throw special invites to people like that, whether they show interest or not, like you gauge that interest first, just to see if now we got these top YouTubers or these top players who play in current format playing, and now how many other people do you grab and you drag?
That would shine more light on it for sure.
I think that's a critical piece. Like how do we get more of the new guard into challenging some of these old guards or old ideas and gameplay? So a lot of them may have even played. I know a couple people were just 10 or 12 or 15 years old when Go Formats. For us, we were at that age. So
yeah, Anthony, that was like a conversation me and you had a couple days ago. Exactly on that point. I totally forgot about it. That's a good call. This format was, this tournament was structured almost to bring the 2005 players out of retirement / make them meet in the middle with the people who have been playing Go Format for the past year. But there wasn't really a lot of effort, or it didn't seem anyway, from an outsider's perspective, didn't seem like there was a lot of effort made to try to bring more people into Go Format. And it's not like you're going to just find random people off the street and say, hey, you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh from 15 years ago? It's cool, I promise. It's never going to happen that way, right? Like the way that you're going to have to bring people into Go Format is you're going to have to take people or introduce Go Format to people who currently play Yu-Gi-Oh. And I actually like the thing you just said. That wasn't something we talked about, but reaching out to Yu-Gi-Tubers, reaching out to people who are, for example, like the top 10 people when the dueling book ladder resets. Maybe look at the top 10 people on the dueling book ladder and extend them invites to Worlds or something like that. That's an interesting idea, but that's something I think that's going to be necessary to grow the format going forward. I like that idea a lot. Lazaro, you got anything that you're hoping for besides anything that's been touched on?
I mean, they've touched on a lot of it, but something, it may not be a popular opinion, but I would love to see like changes to the list. Imagine that, like.
Yeah, that won't fly.
That it probably wouldn't fly, of course, but like imagine being like, hey, let's limit Trap Dust Shoot to 1, or a couple of things like that, right?
Like ban True Nade.
Yeah, just like small changes, and then it could reinvigorate like the game, but It's hard to say because there has to be a lot of like research going into that, and like whose opinion are you really going to take, right?
So
there's no one.
Hold up, I really do have something to say about this. This is
I think what you're trying to get, Chris, because I know that we talked about it too, was by limiting or changing the format, all you do is remove people from the community you've already built, right? So if we have 100 players who are willing to play Go format like nonstop, they're just committed to playing. If you start changing it, all of a sudden that pool gets shorter. You're not going to add more people in because you took away Giant Trunade. People are going, oh, now I'll play Go format because Trunade's banned.
Right.
Like, it's such a small niche group of people who use Trunade and Reasoning Gate.
That was the thing that was my counter to you, Anthony, when we were talking about this. But like Lazaro, I just gotta say, I am right there with you. I wish we could play a format where either Sorcerer was banned or Sorcerer was at 1, and there was no Giant Trunade, and maybe even we banned Duo.
We can play Kristopher's format. Didn't you make a game like that?
Well, so that's the thing. I was gonna ask Lazaro, do you know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yu-Gi-Oh, that's what it was.
All right.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
I actually don't. No, I don't.
So it doesn't matter. We don't have to get into it. It was a failed experiment in part because, again, exactly what Anthony touched on, that you're taking a small community, you're fracturing it even further by saying these are the opinions that we should play by, and it turns out not everyone agrees on that kind of thing, and you're never going to build consensus that way, unfortunately. But I really do think that would be better. It's also, it's kind of frustrating too, because we played Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2006, right? And we had access to cards like Premature and Call, and we had access to cards like Air Knight, and there was less Scapegoat, and I think Metamorphosis was restricted to 1, even though Thousand Eyes was banned or something like that. So like the format was different than Go Control, but that said, the format wasn't. There was Monarchs, but like in 2006 specifically, Monarchs weren't like the deck. It was like maybe like an eighth of people who tried that even. But the deck was really Chaos Return. And so it's like, even with this benefit of hindsight, and you're like, where does the format naturally evolve to? What are the strong cards? Is it something like Tribute Monsters and Premature and Call? Or is it something like Chaos Sorcerer because it's an inherent special summon that can get advantage on the summon? And it's like, oh yeah, it turns out that the card that can attack just for 2,300 and just be special summoned off the top of the deck, that's better than Tribute Monsters kind of thing. So it's like we have this hindsight for like where the format goes, and like obviously Chaos Sorcerer is such a powerful card that it has the power to warp the format, and now people have discovered that it's worth running, so let me now use it. And to Dale's point, or to Dale's concern or Dale's hopes, I actually don't think it's going to be cyclical. I think we've now taken the toothpaste out of the container and you can't put it back, where now people have seen how powerful Chaos Sorcerer is, and it's just now it's just going to be a question of how best to support it, at least mainstream, unless people start running Gravekeepers all the time or something silly like that. I don't think it's going to be cyclical. I think this is the new world we've created for ourselves.
I agree. I hope it'll be cyclical because I hate seeing Thunder Dragon get played. It's one of those cards where I'm telling you, like, when I see somebody go, and I'll speak to math on this, but like when somebody goes Thunder Dragon Duo, like I don't feel like they gain any advantage, so I don't like Thunder Dragon in that case. Like, I went Thunder Dragon Duo. How many cards did you have when you draw? 4? Okay, cool. How many active cards do I have? Oh, 4. Okay, cool. So it's situations like that where it makes me not want to play Thunder Dragon, but I understand the ceiling of playing Thunder Dragon because of this one Chaos Sorcerer card that just makes, again, the toothpaste out the tube. Chaos Sorcerer is just too good to add on top of the BLS, right? So I get it. I hope it's cyclical, but I can see where it won't turn back from Chaos. Not for another 10 years until a new batch of people decide they're going to fix it, like they did with the Metamorphosis. Because all we had before in Go Control was our Metamorphosis was our Chaos Sorcerer. Now we have boss monsters.
The alternative is to do something like what Sparky Flary did and just say, I'm not running Chaos Sorcerer. You're going to run a deck that requires you to set up. You're going to require a deck that runs you, makes you run Thunder Dragons. Yeah, and Thunder Dragons are like a -1, so like I'm just going to put you on a clock and summon, attack, and Dust Shoot and Solemn or whatever. And it's like,
Catching flashbacks to 6-1.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying that version of Go format actually was less exciting to me, less interesting to me. So I'm hoping that's not the solution that people stumble upon.
Well, if that happens, then you bring Go Control back, and then we are in this cycle that we want.
I mean, do you think that
you go back up to I don't think Go Control handles it because of stuff like double surprise.
Or no, double Tsukiyomi.
No, it didn't play Azure Priest.
No, I see. He's talking about Tsukiyomi. Like, you have, if you were to rely on premature recursion cards like Premature and Call the Haunted and Tribute Monsters and Tsukiyomi, and then all that's kind of functioned, or built around the idea of resolving a scapegoat and a metamorphosis, you're not really that much less combo dependent as Thunder Dragon Chaos Control is, and you're sort of
playing an inferior deck.
Yeah, well, yeah, you have you have a lower ceiling, but you still rely on your side deck, just like Thunder Dragon Chaos Control does.
I think it makes your game one a little bit. Well, I guess the way I played Go Control is I have a bit more beaters, right? You have more stuff that you can put face up in attack mode,
like Abyss Soldier, and then you have Solemns too. Is that what you're talking about?
Kind of, and like you can put Deco's face up if you need to for like he's playing triple level 3. I'm not saying like just in that matchup specifically, but like aggro decks I think will help normalize the format a bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just don't know how you're going from A to B. Like, how do you go from?
Well, going into the tournament, we talked about there being 4 main decks, right? So we talked about the 2 Chaos, the Chaos Turbo, Chaos Thunder Dragon Chaos Control. We talked about Chaos Warrior, and we talked about
Go Control.
Go Control, right? I think to Dale's point is the more Chaos aggro gets played, maybe you'll see less Turbo, and less Turbo means you'll have more Thunder Dragon Chaos Control and this Chaos aggro. But to Chris's point, I don't see Go Control with no Chaos Sorcerer. I think that's just a less... I mean, Jazz may be the only one who's totally against this, and a couple other people like Marcus, but like Go Control is the lesser version of Thunder Dragon Chaos Control. I hate Thunder Dragon. I hate saying that sentence, but I feel like you give yourself less power cards and your ceiling is not as high when you're running. Like you're playing with one hand tied behind your back for the sake of just saying, I'm going to play a legacy deck.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
sure.
But I think Go Control now is like, I know people won't say it's Go Control, but Go Control has to play like a sorcerer.
No,
like,
it's still Go Control.
Sorry?
That's still Go Control. That's Go Control with a tech sorcerer.
Yeah, that like it doesn't need to run 2, but it doesn't necessarily need to run Air Knights. It doesn't need to run Prima. It just doesn't need to go Thunder Dragon Chaos Control route.
So what are you thinking? Like Haiku's and a Asura Priest?
Yeah, it's Chaos Control with right. Thunder Dragon Chaos Control is with Thunder Dragon. Chaos Control is
it just goes to Chaos Control instead of Thunder Dragons.
Well, just for the sake of clarity, like Go Control, I would say that Go Control with one Chaos Sorcerer is still Go Control. Go Control with 2 Chaos Sorcerer is Chaos Control. That's just
right
for the sake of clarity, because I think that one Sorcerer that you're adding in addition to the rest of your Go Control deck doesn't fundamentally change your deck to give it a different label. However, 2 Sorcerers, that's enough Chaos monsters where it's like, okay, I need to run additional lights to support that in a way that you can't just throw, make it work otherwise. But that said, back to the point. So you're talking about Asura Priest and Kaiku, right? As in, that's what you're going to run and Go Control to make it more aggressive or something, like differentiate it somehow, and
maybe you're more consistent. Then you have more control or web decisions against than a Thunder Dragon Chaos Control without the Thunder Dragons, right? Thunder Dragon is terrible.
My counterpoint to that, though, is you're saying that this happens in the event that the Chaos Warrior becomes more popular and Chaos Turbo becomes less popular. So your Kaikus are doing less, and you have 18.
Aggro.
Okay.
Your Kaikos aren't doing it's not doing what Kaiku's supposed to do, but it's doing something else in it being an 18 attacker that you can summon versus having to set something weak to a big half of their deck, right? Or
toothpaste out of the jar. We keep saying out of the tube, right? So we're talking about chaos monsters. Like Kaiku, even if you're running 1 copy in a chaos control deck, like you're able to try to limit somebody's chaos sorcerer or BLS. And I think having basically a control deck against a turbo deck, but you don't have the bad Thunder Dragon draws, may be the next evolution. I said if it's cyclical, Go Control will never be Go Control. It'll be a Go Control 2.0. Maybe that 2.0 is Chaos Control, meaning there's going to be that one Kaiku, one Asura to support the second Chaos Sorcerer, or even two Asura to support two Chaos Sorcerer. But in that realm, where it's no longer just Go Control 1.0 that people will just play for the sake of having some kind of, badge of honor that I'm playing Go Control.
I think that we're talking about different things then, because
I think Chris is talking about, do you really think Go Control is the way to beat aggro or like chaos aggro? I think that's where Chris was kind of going. You guys were kind of going with somewhere a little different.
What Chris was saying is that the cards that we're using to be more aggressive, like Kaikus and Azuras, against a deck that doesn't run, like Sparky Flare's deck that doesn't run
Chaos Sorcerer, right?
Chaos Sorcerer,
or
right?
Scapegoat.
But Kaiku, if you look at his deck, Kaiku still beats over the majority of the stuff. It just changes the tempo, where you're not setting a monster and he's going one ahead, right?
I want to be clear on my side. Aggro, I'm not talking about the aggro that doesn't run Sorcerer or just tries to put you on a clock. I don't think those will ever be the best deck of the format. Those are just great metagame calls, depending on if you particularly see a certain number of players just playing a field.
You're talking about Sorcerers.
The aggro deck.
You're talking about multiple Sorcerers, multiple beaters.
Right.
Yeah, that's something different.
That's when your Scapegoats and Metamorphosis takes advantage of these inherent neg-1 beaters, right? Because your Sorcerers are coming down and wiping Blade Knights off the board. Your Metamorphosis and Thousand Eyes is just taking Blade Knights off the board. Your Tsukiyomi's just knocking Blade Knights off the board. So if you're playing this aggro approach where you're just trying to summon lights and darks and attack directly, like, I'm inherently just going to defend myself with a Goat, Metamorphosis, and draw out a +1, or drop a Sorcerer, draw out a +1, and you have nothing to really get back in the game with the exception of your Sorcerer.
Yeah, I'm not clear. Are you upselling? Are you trying to sell right now the idea that Chaos Aggro is good, or are you staying on the conversation of whether or not Go Control is the deck to try out in the next phase going forward?
No, Go Control or Go Control 2.0 only become good when you're dealing with a field that turns back into an aggressive field, whether it's Chaos Aggro or any other kind of aggro deck. It's not going to be good when you're dealing with Thunder Dragon Chaos Control mirror matches where they have the higher ceiling because of Thunder Dragon and Chaos Sorcerer, or Chaos Turbo where their ceiling can be high because of their speed and their sorcerers.
That's where I guess I'm disagreeing with you, where you're saying, because what I understand is you're saying, hey, if more people run Chaos Aggro to counter Chaos Turbo and push down Chaos Turbo, and then the metagame becomes more Chaos Aggro and less Chaos Turbo, I think Asura Priest and Kaiku don't do anything there. And then what the problem is that Go Control has is that your monsters in that spot are just anti-card, like you're just picking different monsters that are available to you that aren't weak to Blade Knight, but that doesn't make them strong against Blade Knight. Like, that doesn't make them like suddenly 2100 attack. And I think that's the problem Go Control has, I don't think there's a way for it to come back.
So, but your argument saying that Chaos Aggro... With Chris. Well, no, hold on, because then you're saying your argument is that Chaos Aggro, if it were to come and at high numbers to try to beat Chaos Turbo, then, and a Go Control deck can't beat Chaos Aggro, why does Thunder Dragon Chaos Control beat aggro? Like, what would beat a Chaos Aggro at that point?
It has more powerful tools than Chaos Sorcerer. That in itself is just way bigger. If you just drop a Chaos Sorcerer against that deck, you can just start removing stuff. You don't have to attack. Whereas if you drop a Kaiku, they can just run a Blade Knight over it. Or if they have a big Blade Knight, you can't do anything with the Zero Priest.
Right.
That's just what I've said. That's my logic there. I just think Thunder Dragon Chaos Control is the better version, even against aggro.
Right, because you're saying, Lazaro, you're saying even you don't have, like, the whole problem that we're kind of dancing around here is that with Thunder Dragon Chaos, or the solution that Thunder Dragon Chaos Control offers is it gives you a way to play against Chaos Aggro. Yeah, it has resilience, right? That's what the Mimic deck's all about, is that you can run Tomatoes and Mimics level 1, and all of a sudden you're not weak to Blade Knight, and all of a sudden you can attack over level 2. All of a sudden you're not that weak to Mind Control, or not that weak to Kaiku. And the only thing that maybe stands in the way is like an Asura Priest.
I think one thing that we've failed to talk about, that's probably a little late to talk about right now, is there was just as many Go Control decks in top 8 than there were anything else, right?
So
Go Control or Thunder Dragon?
Yeah, I think there was 2.
No,
Yeah.
Go Control. There's two Go Control decks.
there were 2 Go Control decks in top 8. Yes. However, there was you and Lazaro with Thunder Dragon Chaos Control.
Yep.
There was Sparky Flare.
Bazu Return.
Yep.
Bazu Return, Warrior, Chaos Turbo, and Empty Jar.
And empty jar, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is just to say that Empty Jar overperformed because there were only 2 people in the field with it. Thunder Dragon Chaos Control and Chaos Turbo underperformed. Go Control overperformed, and Bazu Return also overperformed. So there's, but at the same time, there's at the start of the tournament, there was 11 people playing Chaos Turbo, 11 people playing Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, half as many, 6 playing Chaos Warrior, and 6 playing Go Control. So number 1, Chaos Warrior, crap deck. Didn't place. The only one that did well was a regular standard warrior. And in fact, if you just look at the win rates of decks, like I said before, Turbo won 58% of the time, Thunder Dragon Chaos Control won 50%, Chaos Warrior only won 37%. So Chaos Warrior did not do well. It underperformed by a lot. Go Control did do well, but it's also like, I mean, how much do you want to read into these experiences, right? Like there were 6 people that played Go Control. One of the versions that did well, I think, ran like 3 Asura Priest, and I forget who the second who wasn't Marcus. Who's the other one that top 8'd?
NB96.
NB96. He ran, his was actually pretty standard. So he ran triple Solemn, triple Trap Dushu, and Exiled Force in the main, with 2 Air Knights and pre-call. So this is what I would think is like a sort of a metagame adapted version of Go Control, where the pilot is really insistent about wanting to run 2 Air Knight. But he ran 2 Air Knight, DD Warrior Lady, 2 Merchant, 2 Faith, 2 Goat, 3 Meta, 3 Trap Dushu, 3 Solemn. So this seems pretty refined for this particular meta game. Are you saying that like you would use something like this, or would you not use Air Knights?
I would not use Air Knights.
Not.
Yeah, I think
the bigger problem is like when you don't run Air Knights and you run a Go Control 1.0 or 2.0, when you don't have those tributes, those Thousand Eyes stay stuck on the board, right? Unless you have the Tsukiyomi. So that's why Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, running those Thunder Dragons allows you to get that Thousand Eyes off the board. Mm-hmm. So that's a critical piece a lot of people forget when they start taking out tributes out of their Go Control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they end up not having the way to out their own Thousand Eyes, and they end up goat locked in some games where I just sit on something and wait for my Heavy Storm DLS
and
Ring of Destruction play.
That's exactly the kind of thing, by the way, that normally when you're playing a match or if you make the mistake in your deck construction of not having a way to tribute or put down a Thousand Eyes restrict, like you can get away because opponents generally try to answer that right away. You can get away with that a lot of the times. But if I'm playing against you and like,
you're screwed.
Yeah, and like, I'm not upselling myself. I'm just saying if I'm playing against you and then game 1 you wind up locking yourself, I know you have a weakness in your deck that you didn't think about, and then I'm going to exploit game 2 when you activate goats. So I'm just saying that that's another problem of Goat Control and Scapegoat specifically, that I think, we are 15 years in this format. I think people know how to play against Scapegoat.
Yeah, we all know how to go. We all know when to goat lock someone, right? Like when.
Yeah.
Like what they need to do to break out of the goat lock, where a lot of people will just start attacking through the goats and be like, "Oh, I need to get to his life points."
Right.
I mean, Rymus won many games in 2005 simply because he would goat lock somebody and shoot cannon soldiers off while they were stuck. So. Like,
it's true.
It's true. I mean,
that's actually crazy. That's actually
like
crazy.
He used to shoot. Yeah, he used to go lock him, and then he'd go Heavy Storm, and then he'd like flip summon all his guys and just like start shooting them off and Ring of Destruction. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I remember him setting a cannon soldier with a goat face down, and like opponent was locked, and he got passed back to him. He end phased the goats, and he Heavy Storms, flips up cannon soldier, tributes off 4 goat tokens, activates Escape Goat from hand, does another 2000.
Can you do that?
Yeah, you can. I seen him do it. It was gross.
Well, I remember the same thing happening. I don't remember him flipping the cannon soldier. I remember him going, set the cannon soldier, set the Scapegoat, end phase goat. He would seize fire, hit you for the damage.
Yeah,
and then shoot off the cannon soldier, the goats, and then activate goat and shoot off the second pair of goats.
Damn.
Legendary. Yeah. Like you'd take 8,000 sometimes because you were go locked or monster locked and you couldn't get by him, but he'd hit you for at least $6,000, $5,000, whatever it was.
Whatever.
55.
Anyway, all right. So
brain control. Shoot your 1,000 eyes too.
these were all awful cards, and I'm glad that people. Anyway,
shout out to Rhymus.
Yeah, I love him, but oh god, I hated his decks. Anyway, so we're kind of just rambling now. Let's wrap it up. Is there anything that you guys want to say to the people listening before we hang up here?
No, I mostly I kind of love the community as it is right now. I know there's some people that aren't the greatest in the community, but for the most part, I feel like a lot of people have matured. Like a lot of the community is matured players, right? It is us coming back, and it's just fun to play again. And I hope you reach out to a few other people, bring the format back alive. This is something we could do when we want to relive the heydays. So
that was gonna be my input. My input was gonna be just, find a friend, and especially one who may have played back then, or even a current person. Again, I think the biggest thing for us to do is grow our current community, and that includes new players who are playing these link summons, and sometimes they don't want to play 20 decisions turns.
Yeah.
Right, 20-minute
20
turns.
move, 20 move, single turn.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to bring it back to this level, but you guys got to sell them on it. So
I think Chris muted me when I was trying to interrupt because I was honestly I'm shuffling. You guys won't believe me. No, I was shuffling through cards.
Go on.
Are you opening packs?
No, I have okay. So the Yu-Gi-Oh collector market is crazy. So I'm just digging through my old stuff to see if I find some money.
So hold on one second. While I'm over here and I'm saying, Dale, do you mind just staying quiet while you're on the mic, while the mic's hot? You're just like, let me go shuffle, like right up into the mic.
I should send you guys a picture of the room I'm in right now, and there's cards everywhere. Anyways, I was trying to interrupt by saying that I have friends that are like the big Yu-Gi tubers. Like the Canadian guys are some of the bigger Yu-Gi tubers. And I proposed that in the beginning to Scully, like, hey, we should throw like some courtesy invites just so we could grow it. Mm-hmm. And I think at the time it wasn't well received with the rest of the community. We're like, no, this is kind of our format. Why are we giving invites there, right, instead of seeing it grow? But I think they're starting to notice it grow much larger. And one of the things that I'm reading on the forums right now is they want to get rid of legacy invites, which I think that's wrong. I think you should let people use their legacy invite once.
Right. I like that.
Once you've used it, then you can no longer use it.
Yeah, I like that.
Versus just eliminating it completely. Because now if you eliminate it completely, wow, these people that had their one shot to maybe get back in this format, you have no chance with them anymore. So
right. I think that's a great idea. I don't mind earning my invite.
You earned yours anyway. You didn't use yours. You didn't use your legacy. You earned it.
Well, I don't know. Is Scully gonna let me do that?
Well, let's not speculate. But to the point is, I think we all have an interest in seeing the format grow. I think there are a lot of different ways. I mean, we've touched on some of them to make that happen. Did we hit on the best ones? I doubt it. Have we listed all of them? I doubt it. And that's something I think that's going to be a conversation that goes on in this community going forward, and a lot of people are going to contribute to making that happen. It's not just going to be me and Dale or just Scully trying to make that happen. I look forward to seeing what people in this community come up with. I hope that everyone does take a break. I hope that we don't have any more FLCs or GFCs for the rest of the year. I'd like it if everyone just kind of focused on Thanksgiving, focused on Christmas, focused on the holidays, focused on family for a bit, and then circle back at the start of next year or somewhere in the middle, at the beginning of the next year. Sorry, just to give us a lot of perspective, and so that we don't we don't let ourselves become obsessed about this thing. That's something I talk about a lot, about taking breaks.
Avoid fatigue. That's another
exactly.
Yeah. That's the other thing. You don't want to.
Like formats change for a reason, right? Like there was ban list. Like it was part of the competitiveness, but it also to avoid fatigue in the same card pool and everything.
Right. The only other thing I'd say is that I hope that the community is more inclusive going forward. So let me back up. I want to say, Dale, to the point you said before about we're all mature adults, and I'd say like 5 years ago even, I feel like this community and the Yu-Gi-Oh community at large wasn't that mature. And like, I'm not saying that first of all, we're playing a children's card game. Like we're not paragons of maturity over here. That said, I think
floor is lava.
That said, I think there's a lot of toxicity that GoFormat.com specifically has been able to root out of our community. And,
yes.
And I think that's like, it's a testament to the moderation that goes on and the community leaders that step up time and again to say, hey, you know what? It's not okay to talk trash about this particular person in this particular way. And that's the kind of thing that me now as a 33-year-old, I appreciate in ways that maybe I didn't really care so much about as a 24-year-old. Like I like that, you know, I can load up Discord and it's not just necessarily a flame war every day. And so I just want to say, like, I like that aspect of it. But at the same time, what I don't like is when people in charge of, for example, GoForward.com or ForwardLibrary.com make executive decisions that apply to the community overall that don't account for necessarily what everybody thinks. And I wish that, or I hope going forward that we have more feedback from the community fed into the decisions that the community leaders sort of decide upon. Like, you know, as regards tournament structure, right? Like something I think a lot of people talk about is like double elimination. Like, where do we go from here with double elimination? Is that something we do? Do we try something with Swiss? Do we do something with like pools? Like, what do we do with tournaments? I hope that that's something that people engage with and are listened to going forward. But outside of that, I have nothing but optimistic outlooks for where the format goes from here. I think GoForward.com is doing a great job of keeping it going. I mean, here we are 15 years strong.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're one of the community leaders, so I think you have.
I'm just a person.
No, you're not.
I mean, I'm just.
Well,
sure.
You have to say that, but I'll tell you you're not. So.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm a name, and people, for whatever reason, I did well in a tournament or two, and then, you know.
Okay, fine. You suck. Whatever. You suck, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, right? Seriously, it's like he doesn't know how to just stop when he takes one compliment.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like if I wanted to, I could try to be more of a, I want to say, like you said, a community leader. I think I could take more of a administrative role in the community, but I did purposefully like sit back and I just like offer my opinion like every once in a while when I have something I think that's worth saying. And I try not to make that worth more than anybody else. And if I'm overruled, which I often am, like I take that, like just like anybody else. You say like I'm a community leader, but I'm just saying I specifically, I know I go out of my way to try to build a consensus, and then I let it go when I can't.
So we need to build a Senate.
Okay, because that always works out. Anyway, it's election day in America. I don't know if we said this before. Like, it's November 3rd.
Yeah, we figured out how Canada works. They're doing it wrong.
Yeah. 50% of this conversation doesn't really care. So
I totally wish you had recorded the first half an hour. We talked about prime ministers and how voting goes down. I'm still convinced that Lazaro and Dale don't know how voting works in Canada.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining me for this conversation. I appreciate it. I hope people listening to this don't think that we're just, four idiots rambling on for forever. And I hope they got something out of it. I hope you guys did too. And if people are interested in hearing this conversation and want more of it, I'm sure that we're all probably open to the idea of doing more Overdose Roundtable discussions in the future. Guys, thanks again for joining me, and I'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, Chris.